Hi guys!
Hi,
It's Frida.
I'm Aubrey.
Rufus.
And I'm Nicole. Okay, so in our group we're supposed to talk about safety in preschool, and the topic I was given was common childhood fears and how to alleviate those fears. So children have common fears at three main stages in their lives, and there's fear of an infant or toddler, fears during preschool years, and fears during school-aged years. Um, if we take an infant, they are mostly scared of loud noises, strangers, or when they're separated from their parents, or when there is a major change in the house. As we can see from the picture, we can see how scared this toddler is. So if we're also to talk about how to alleviate those fears in an infant or toddler.
Is that right, Frida?
Yeah. So for you to alleviate those fears or ease those fears in an infant, parents can have a strong bond with the child through eye contact, through regular touch or singing. And this can help to build a foundation of trust between the child and the parent. And parents can also minimize the number of caretakers, in the child's life, and they can also establish a predictable routine like cuddling or helping them to take in a deep breath. As we can see down here, we see a picture of a mother cuddling a child. And so this can help them to feel safe as well. Moving on to fears during preschool years. Preschoolers are mostly scared of the dark, and they're scared of masks and monsters and ghosts and animals such as dogs. And in order to alleviate or ease this kind of fears, we can turn their fears into something fun or exciting, like reading a book with a flashlight, or we can get the child into a different frame of mind by talking to him or her and showing her the difference between, if we take darkness for instance, showing them the difference between darkness and light, and helping them to understand that the mere fact that there is darkness doesn't mean that they should be scared, but it's something that's going to happen continuously. And so this can help the child to feel okay and ease the fears they have about darkness. When we also take fears that school-aged children have, it's being home alone. Some others are also scared of snakes and spiders, or a teacher being angry, and they are also scared of death or rejection. So one way that we can also help these school-age children to alleviate these fears is to ask them to express their fears as we listen to them attentively, and also help them to create a different mindset about what they have. For an instance, if they have fears about a teacher being angry because they were not able to do their homeworks or pass a test, we can help them to create a different mindset by seeing the teacher as their helper, not somebody who is going to scream at them or beat them up if they do not pass their test. So these are common fears that children have during their childhood, and these are certain strategies or factors that we can use to help them to ease those fears as they grow. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Frida. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about how to prepare children for emergencies. So I kind of have separated them into 7 different sections that I think are really informative, but there's probably a lot more. that we could include, but I think these are the main summarized points that I found through my research. So the first one is to know what your child can handle. So each child is definitely different, and they have different imaginations, and they have different minds that work different ways. And so I think it's very important to know what your child needs to know to be safe and to just make informed decisions. So, but it's very important, I think, with every child to just tell them in a short and simple way. Don't go crazy and tell them everything that could possibly happen, but just the basics. Another way to prepare children is to have them be well informed about the emergency plan at school and at home. And it also helps if you know them as a parent or as the teacher, obviously. But if you're well informed, then you can inform them well, and then they're not going to be confused about what to do when an emergency does happen. And that's really great because then they're not going to be scared about what to do. The next way to prepare children is to talk about the possible emergency. Little preschoolers that just all of a sudden have this huge ringing bell in the school for a fire alarm, that's going to cause a lot of fear in them. And so it's important to just let them know what's going to happen so that they can deal with those different emotions that come from those events. But if you're not showing any fear, that helps just a million times because they realize that things are going to be okay. But when you're talking about these emergencies, it's important to obviously be short and simple, but be honest with them too, because they also can tell when you're being honest or if you're making up a story. Another thing is to role play or show them in normal, natural ways. So this can, you can use this as a teacher a lot of the times, you know, when you do like earthquake drills. But as like a parent, you can have them and your family walk to the evacuation spot that you have planned out and made so that they know exactly where they need to go if there is an emergency in the house. And so it could be even a fun thing that they remember, so then it sticks in their brains a little bit more. Another way is to teach them skills and then help them understand those skills so that they realize why they need to know them. Because just like for a class, if you don't know why you're doing this assignment, you're definitely not going to want to do it. So some of those things that kids can learn, especially I'm focusing on preschoolers, is like how to replace batteries. Maybe they won't, you know, exactly know how, but you can have them prepare and help each other by doing that, or that you can help them learn how to blow a whistle, like if they're lost. Another way to prepare children is to include them in the plan. So the little kids want to be involved, and they also want to feel loved so that they're not scared. So some of those things that you can have the kids be included in is to play those active parts while you're role playing, like blowing the whistle or calling your parents. But you can pick 2 to 3 evacuation spots that you've come up with your spouse or another teacher or like your principal, and then have them choose the spot that they want, because that kind of helps them feel important. But also, I loved this idea. The Red Cross and Disney hooked up to do a pillowcase that has like a design on the front with Disney that you could personalize, and that way for kids who have to leave like in emergencies, they could put their stuff in and it's personalized because they drew on them. And I just love that idea because they had their own bag or their own pillowcase where they could put the essentials for them in. But the last step that I've kind of summarized through my resources is to act. If you don't do any of this, it doesn't do any good to the child or to yourself because the kids are going to be even in more of a distress. So, for example, putting a pair of shoes under the beds because most emergencies happen in the middle of the night, or a flashlight next to the beds. Do a drill or make those personalized bags or those, 72-hour kits. But that helps the kids be more involved with those 72-hour kits if you give them their own bag and you let them choose them. It always will help if the kids know their phone numbers and addresses. And so practice can definitely help. So that's just a little bit about how to prepare children for emergencies. And now we're going to have Rufus.
Thank you so much, Aubrey. I'm sure by now the child will be feeling safe after learning how to prepare for emergency, and with what Frida shared about knowing their fears and how to remove them. Okay, so I'll be talking about making children feel safe. I'll be talking about children generally, then I will focus, or I'll present in a way that it can be adapted to preschoolers. Okay, I'm coming from 3 different angles because now there's a difference between whether the environment is safe for the child or how the child feel about the environment. And the child is not going to be in the same place throughout. The child will be moving from one place to the other. So I'll be talking about how do they feel about their current environment at any point in time. And with that, we'll be mentioning how they feel cared for. Then number 2, how do they feel about the people in their life, the people around them, parents, caregivers, their classmates, and so on. Do they feel loved and respected? Then how do they feel about themselves? Here, I'll be focusing on what are the things that they have in their database, maybe from their experience, from what they have passed through, that may have put a kind of fear in their minds. So now talking about the environment, the next slide, we start by introducing them to that environment. And if there are going to be changes, like Frida mentioned, then they need to be part of it. When they know everywhere around them, they are likely to feel safe. Then read the environment with happiness. Let them play, let them express themselves. Be mindful of what they are exposed to from time to time, the kind of movies they watch and the information they get. Pay attention in order to remove threats. Care. We are talking about care. It's not only about dealing with issues when they happen, but also to remove those threats before they even happen in the first place. That will make the children feel safe. They do not restrict them unnecessarily. Set rules, let them know their boundaries. Then in class, for instance, they need to be organized well, as in the sitting arrangement. For instance, you don't want to pair someone that is noted to be a bully with a child that maybe has already been nursing a kind of fear in him or her. So, and next, on the next slide, I'll be talking about how they feel about you. And the essence of this particular slide is to push across that you need, when you win their trust, when a child trusts you, when a child likes you, the child is likely to feel safe with you. And that also can be applied in all areas. So be genuinely friendly, welcoming, and interested in them. Win their trust. Give them time, one-on-one. Every child needs time, right? Then encourage reporting. This is actually peculiar to classroom. When you encourage reporting and you actually meet out discipline as appropriately, then children in that class will feel safe. Then help them to confront their fears, encourage them to pray, praise their efforts, let them know it is okay to make mistakes. And the last slide now, I'll be focusing on how to extract the information that they have on their minds. I personally developed this one from so many documents I've been exposed to, UNICEF, Communicating with Children, and some other materials. The emphasis on this particular artwork is ask. Most of the time we feel that we know the generalized idea about what children feel, but we need to ask them to know their peculiar concerns. So the vertical line, that is, it starts with training, which means the caregiver must seek knowledge, seek training to be able to deal with children, know the best way to communicate with children, whether they are preschoolers, they are toddlers, or they are even older than 5. It's always good to seek training about how to talk to them, ask them, listen to them with the intent to know where they are coming from. Then you now go to the horizontal line, which is SPAT. Confirm, make sure that your personality is, you're actually a model to the child. Then again, ask. This time around, you're asking to know how they think so that you can correct and teach them the right principles, like Aubrey said. So in all, if we fall tall packed with children, we can actually help them to feel safe more. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Nicole. Thank you.
Okay, so mine is on keeping the preschool environment safe. My first bullet point is keep dangerous supplies out of reach. This is pretty self-explanatory, but this is, just meaning keeping anything that they could injure themselves with, like locked up or not where they can get it to. Things such as like sharp objects, choking hazards, poisonous materials, anything like that where they can't get to them. Next is to practice emergency plans. Practicing plans for things such as like fires, lockdowns, earthquakes, or tornadoes by going through the steps of what to do with them in any of these emergencies will hopefully help them feel more prepared if it ever does happen, and then also cause less of like a panic throughout the classroom if they feel like they're at least a little bit prepared on what to do. Next is to follow through with consequences. This is meaning like to set boundaries with the kids, and like having rules and boundaries will help create more structure for them. And then also like make sure they know like why we have certain rules. And then try and keep like the consequence like related to the situation, whatever it is. And then this will hopefully make them feel more safe, that they know what is like expected of them and what's not. Next is keep open communication. You should have open communication between the teacher, the parents, and the child, and then maybe other teachers too if needed. This is like telling the kids information about like new policies, or just making sure you're open with them about everything, as well as the parents. And then as far as the kids, this will hopefully, if you're open and honest with them, hopefully it will make them feel comfortable also being open and honest with you and like telling you if there's something bothering them, which will then, if they feel like they can talk to you, it will help them feel safer. Next is establishing routines. By establishing routines, it will help create more like predictability for them throughout their day, and hopefully make them feel more comfortable showing up to school and more like emotionally safe throughout the day. One way to help them establish a routine is through active supervision, which is my next point. Active supervision is like listening, anticipating behavior, and then engaging and redirecting if you need. By anticipating certain behaviors and redirecting them, it will help to maybe, like if there's gonna be a problem, it'll help to kind of stop it before it gets bad or anything. And then it will also help them to like learn rules and routines and prevent injuries or anything like that. It can also be a time where you can help kind of teach them how to control emotions or like handle situations better. Next is create a respectful environment. This is just encouraging them to speak positively, saying please and thank you, not calling anyone names, anything like that, which will also help them feel safer around each other. Next is keeping rules clear and positive. By keeping rules and also keeping them short, this will help it be easier for them to remember, and try not to like only tell them things that they should not be doing. Maybe try to phrase it in a way that tells them like what they should be doing instead, and then try not to like have too many rules at once, because then it will just be harder for them to remember or overwhelm them. And then also using pictures is like a good way to help them remember and learn them better. And then lastly is allow for some downtime throughout their day, whether that be like recess or like reading or whatever. this can hopefully help them maybe release some energy or kind of just like regroup, you know, because if they're stressed out or anything, because school can be frustrating. So, which will then ultimately hopefully help them like listen better for the rest of the day. And yeah, so that's just a little bit about safety in the preschools, and we hope you guys learned a lot from it. Thank you.